Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'd like to have a bit of a talk about driving in Japan. Now in Japan, so many people use phones while they're driving. It's amazing. You know, you pull up alongside someone and they're using their phone, or you see them like when they're driving, they're texting while they're driving. It is absolutely unbelievable how many people in Japan use phones. So I was talking to a mate about it the other day, and he reckons one of the main reasons is the fines. The fines aren't that expensive. So if you get caught using your mobile phone, it costs you about 18,000 yen, which is about 180 Australian dollars. So which isn't much. Now in Australia, depending on which state you're in, each state in Australia has different prices for different fines. It's pretty crazy, and they're really expensive. So using your phone while you're driving in Australia is going to cost you anywhere between about 500 bucks and $1,000 depending on which state you're in. Now this is just what I found searching on the internet. I'm not sure if it is exactly right. If people who live in different states, if they could put the price in the comment, I'd really appreciate it. It'd be really helpful. But yeah, you know, it's just really dangerous. People aren't concentrating on when they're driving. They're just texting away or playing games or whatever they're doing. You know, it's just madness, you know, the way they use these phones when they're driving. So yeah, there's no real deterrent. Like in Australia now, they've started off with the cameras to pick up mobile phone use. I seen the other day, I think in South Australia it was, they started it off, they had it at a few different intersections. One guy, they haven't started issuing fines yet, they're going to start issuing fines maybe next month. But one guy got caught using his phone 18 times. And there was another guy who got done 15 times, another one 13 times. These guys, even in Australia, they're using their phones a lot too. But in Japan, it's really crazy. Now, you know, like the fines, but really you don't see many police on the road to pick people up using their phones. Very rarely you see them. I said before, on days that end in 0, like 10, 20, 30, you see a lot more police. Why? Because of the 0, they want 0 accidents on that day. So they have a lot more police present. But just normal days, you very rarely see police out. I think this is a big problem too. So without police out catching people are going to keep doing it, and the fines are just not heavy enough to stop people doing it. You know, like if they're in Australia where it's going to cost people 50,000 or 100,000 yen, if they get caught using their phone, the same price as in Australia, people stop using them. You know, if you've got to cough up, you know, 50,000 yen, that's a lot of money, especially with now the way how weak the yen is. So this is one big problem. Now another problem I've come up with, and I can't fathom this. In Australia, you know, for donkey's years, you've had to have seat belts, and especially kids have had to be strapped in. You know, little kids, we had the baby car seats with the harness, and you'd strap them in. And then when they got bigger, you'd have like a booster seat, and you'd strap them in there and put the seat belts on them. And kids were brought up wearing seat belts, you know. My kids, when they were younger, if you got in the car and you didn't put the seatbelt on, they'd tell you, oh, you didn't put my seatbelt on, put the seatbelt on, you know, because it's just second nature to them. But in Japan, they have kids jumping and climbing around the cars and that sort of thing. And the parents have got seatbelts on, but the kids are just running around the cars. It's crazy. I I could never fathom this. And then I thought, okay, let's see how much the fines are. Now, in Australia, this seems really expensive. So for New South Wales, they reckon, or what I found yesterday on the internet was, for New South Wales it's $2,200, and Queensland about $1,100. Other states have different prices. Now this seems really high. You know, if someone who lives in one of these states, if they could put a comment for me how much it does cost, I'd really be interested, because like $2,000 seems a lot of money. But you know, you've got precious cargo in the back of the car, you know, so I suppose it's fair enough. But you know, like, and then I thought, okay, let's see how much it is in Japan. In Japan, there's no fine. You lose 1 point off your license. So, you know, like, they don't worry. You know, why worry about strapping the kids in? You know, it doesn't cost us anything and we lose 1 point off our license, you know. So it's just crazy. So this is another big problem, you know, you have. So yeah, anyway, I'm just going to call in and get some petrol and we'll come back to this. Okay, got to get some petrol, so pretty easy here, self-serve. So I use a prepaid card. So we'll just change it into English. Now I've got to put some money in them, so we'll put it in here. We want to charge. So we put our card in. Okay. Now we're going to put 5,000 yen on the card. So that's about 50 bucks Australian. So we slide him in. Confirm. Okay, let's get the cap off here. Okay. Right, yep, we want to get fuel. Let's try rubbish. Okay, but now we've got a point card here, so we get points too. Now with a prepaid card you get a discount of 2 yen a litre. So it all adds up, so we want regular, so it's going to be 159 yen a litre. Okay, we shove him in and whack him on. And that's it. Pretty easy filling up here in Japan. So in Japan they can't sort of fill up and take off. You have to pay for your fuel before you get it. So like in Australia, I think they have a lot of trouble people filling up and then doing a runner. Well, you can't do that here. So it comes up with all this on your monitor here. Over here it tells you how many litres we're putting in, so we've got 15, 16 going in. So it'll probably take about 28 or so. Up to 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. Oh, there we go. We're getting up to 28 even. Okay, 28. Bring him out. Whack him on. Whack our cap back on. Okay, yeah, done. Now it tells you here, take off your point card. Okay. Get our card here. So it gives us how much is left. We've got 4,000 yen left on it. And gives us our receipt. So 28 litres of fuel cost us 4,452 yen. So that's it. We're all fueled up. Okay, we're off again. So just have to do a little bit of banking. Anyway. So yeah, so Japan is not really that strict on road rules and that, and like enforcing them. You know, they don't have a lot of police on the road, which makes it so people don't really worry about fines and that, and the fines aren't so expensive. I know a guy, he got booked for speeding. He was doing over 20 kilometers over the speed limit, and it cost him 18,000 yen, so about 180 bucks Australian, which is pretty cheap for over 20 kilometers over the speed limit. I think he was about 24 kilometers over the speed limit, you know, which is sort of hooking along. But a lot of people, when they drive in Japan, they all are over the speed limit, you know. Like if the speed limit's 50, people be doing 60 or 65, no problem, you know. That's just sort of part and parcel of it. They don't really worry about it too much. So we'll see if the police are still here. Looked like there must have been a bit of an accident. No, looks like they're gone. Anyway, yeah, so, but not strapping kids in the car, I think is just crazy, you know. Like the amount of times I've seen kids just jumping around in the back of the car, and it is just crazy, you know. It's just so dangerous. And the parents are strapped in, you know, so if they have an accident, you got these little missiles shooting through the windscreen, you know. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Oh, there's the police car here. So yeah, it's just they don't worry about it that much. And like mobile phones, using mobile phones, everyone does it, and it's just crazy. You know, you pull up alongside someone and they're just on their phone. You know, the lights change and they're just sitting there because they're looking at their phone doing texting or whatever, you know. They're not worrying about the traffic. So, you know, it's so dangerous because people aren't concentrating on what they're doing. They're not concentrating on driving. All they're doing is concentrating on whatever's on their phone. And it's just, they need to really step up the fines in Japan and have more police present to be able to combat this sort of behavior, because as it is, it's just not working. Drink driving, I think, is not such a big thing in Japan. They don't seem to have, a lot of people just don't drink and drive, you know. Yeah, I think very few people. You do get some people drink and drive. I'm not saying that it's zero. You do get some people, but I don't think it's as big a thing as in Australia. You know, like in Australia when I was there, they would put up the RBTs, the random breath tests, and they would just block off the whole road. Everyone goes through the random breath test, and yeah, that's just sort of how it is. And I think I took the wrong street. And you know, they would have police on side streets to check if people sort of spin down a side street. They'd have someone chase them and catch them, because if someone pulls down a side street, they've probably done the wrong thing. They're probably over the limit. They've probably been drinking and that. So they do a lot of that. Head down this street, get me back on course where I want to go. So yeah, I'm not real sure of this area. I'm in a different area. I just brought the wife to the hospital today. She's got to have more tests done on a skin prano and what do you call autoimmune disease. So it's a real hassle. She's got to come to the hospital here 3 or 4 times a month for tests and checkups. And she sees a couple of different doctors. I think today she's seeing the skin doctor, and then next week she has to see the immune specialist doctor. So yeah, it's a big problem, but anyway, we'll get through it with any luck. Anyway, so yeah, so anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments about these sort of things, using phones, and especially strapping kids in the car. What are your thoughts on that, about strapping the kids in the car? Because, you know, I think that's a real big one. But the phone one's a big one too, because people just don't concentrate on what they're doing. Anyway, that's all for now. I'll leave you to it. I hope you have a good one. Until next time, that's all for now.